We're live.
We're live.
Great. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the April 6th, 2023 meeting of the Student Life and Athletics Committee of the University of Rhode Island's Board of Trustees. This meeting is being held in person with some committee members participating remotely. At this time, Michelle, our secretary, will conduct a roll call attendance to determine if a quorum is present. Please clearly respond present via WebEx or present in person when your name is called. Michelle?
David Moderano. Jay Plasenzia.
Present via WebEx.
Robbie Luna.
Present via WebEx.
Tom Ryan. Carmen Sabatoni.
Present via WebEx.
Hannah Backer. Mark Parlange.
Present WebEx.
We have a quorum. Also in the room with me is Thor Bjorn, Director of Athletics, Garrett Waller, and Lynn Owens. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michelle. So being that a quorum is present, then I will call this meeting to order. A reminder to all the members, for the benefit of our audience and the note takers, to please clearly identify yourself whenever you comment, make a motion, or second to a motion. Participants using WebEx are required to keep their cameras on as remote members, and all persons present at the meeting location must be clearly audible and visible to each other. At this time, I'd like to acknowledge that the University of Rhode Island occupies the traditional homeland of the Narragansett Nation and the Niantic people. The first order of business is the approval of the minutes. I gather you've taken a look at those, and they are in your enclosure 1A. And may I have a motion that the Student Life and Athletics Committee approve the minutes of its October 17th, 2022 meeting?
Robbie Luna, so moved.
Thank you very much, Robbie. Is there a second?
Jay, you're gonna have to second because this is my first meeting. I wasn't there, so I can't make a motion or second on this.
All right, so I'll second.
Yeah.
Can I do that? Alyssa, I can do that, right? Okay, sure. All right, any discussion between Robbie and I? All right, being that there's no discussion or further discussion, I'll ask for a voice vote. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
All right, any opposed? Abstained? I take it, Armin, you're going to be abstaining? All right, the
Yep.
motion to approve the minutes of the October 17, 2022 meeting of the Student Life and Athletics Committee is approved. Is that right, Alyssa? All right, perfect, thank you. The next item on the agenda is item number 2, discussion items. Being that there's really no approval to be had, what I will do is I will just hand the floor to Dr. Ellen Reynolds, Vice President of Student Affairs.
Thank you, Jay. Good afternoon, everyone. I look forward to providing the committee with an update on some of the capital improvements planned within the Division of Student Affairs, as well as providing an update on our URI Greek life. So I'm going to wait just a moment. I'm hoping Michelle's going to be able to share her screen. If not, I'm happy to do so. Perfect. And you can move forward from that slide if you'd like. Next slide. So I'm going to start by talking a little bit about dining facilities improvements that are planned. So we have currently a plan to improve Hope Commons, which is, believe it or not, our newest dining facility, located in Lower Campus in the Residence Hall complex. And it houses not only an all-you-can-eat dining facility, build your own meal type of variety, but also has different stations, including home style and deli and burgers and the like. Also housed in that building is our Pizza Express, which, as you can imagine, is very popular for students. And also we have a convenience store located there. So based on the increase on-campus housing that is anticipated for undergraduate students, we are planning to move forward with a renovation to the interior of this facility, as well as looking at options to increase seating and the flow around the food service areas. We'll also be making some updates to the mechanicals in that building. Dining is anticipated to fund that with fund balance that they have at an anticipated cost of about $3.6 million. And we're currently going out to bid to find an architect and engineering firm to lead that work. We hope to get started as soon as possible and with a completion no later than 2026. So that is one of the projects we have going. Next slide, please. Moving on, we'll talk a little bit about housing and residential life and new undergraduate housing that is planned. Certainly, I think everybody on the committee has heard that housing is our #1 priority right now. And so moving forward to try to meet the continued demand for students wanting to live on campus in university housing. We're currently looking at the addition of about 500 beds with a newly constructed facility for undergraduate housing, with hopefully the type of desired housing our students are interested in, which is the apartment style housing. The project is anticipated to begin soon. It has already begun, as you saw, starting there 2022 with getting approval for the funding and also moving forward with engaging in an architect and engineering firm to help us lead through that, which should be issued soon. So our goal is to hopefully by fall of 2025 have a completed project which we'll be able to be moving people into. That is a very aggressive timeline, so I just want to point that out. But certainly we're hopeful that that is the case because of the demand that we're experiencing currently, again, with students wanting to live on campus in undergraduate housing. You can advance the slide. The next thing I want to talk a little bit about is our fraternity circle improvement. We're moving on to phase 2. If you haven't been to that area, I encourage you to get by and take a look. There was a terrific amount of work done in phase 1 that really has improved that area of campus significantly. In phase 2, what we will do is we'll continue to work on the area that will continue to augment things such as lighting, trees, walkway, and recreational facilities around that area. That is something that will actually be at the cost of the Greek organizations that have residential properties there, but likely it will involve the university loaning the money and having the money paid back to the institution, but is an important part to finalizing the improvement efforts over in that area. And then finally, the other project we have going on is a fire safety and protection phase 2 plan, which is really to look at installing a generator farm to support the Roger Williams residential complex. For those of you who aren't familiar, that's the area down behind the health center in the heart of the residential campus, and it will allow for this emergency power to have shelter in place during extended outages. Not that it happens frequently, but when it does happen, it has a major impact on the university. You can imagine trying to move and find locations for people to shelter if there's not generator power. And so the goal of that would be to allow for students to be able to shelter in place, recognizing that often when we have these extended outages, they're affiliated with blizzards, hurricanes, and major storms. So a large, important project for us on this campus. The cost is approximately $2.4 million and will be covered by RIBEC bonds that the auxiliary housing will be issuing. And we hope to have that complete in the coming year of 2024. You can advance the slides, please. And then I'm happy to share with you that we are actively undergoing a housing and residential life master plan study, which is exciting for us. We've partnered with Scion Architects and Project Management along with Canon Design. Over spring break this past March, we had a comprehensive facility review completed. And last week we had Canon and Scion on site to hold key stakeholder meetings to learn more about what our housing needs are currently, the challenges, where we expect enrollment to be, the types of housing that our students are interested in and they desire. And so we're expecting out of this study to be able to get a 15-year housing master plan delivered, hopefully by this summer. That will be really our guide and our strategic plan moving forward with our housing needs on campus.
That's great.
You can advance the slide, please. So moving right in, I'm going to talk about another population on campus that I have the pleasure of working with regularly, and that is our URI Greek life. For those of you who are unaware, Greek life has a long history at the University of Rhode Island with over 100 years. Currently, we have crested over 3,000 students who have affiliated with Greek life. So it's a great time at the university around Greek life. Last week, we celebrated Greek Week. Some of us on this meeting had the opportunity to participate in the way of judging some of the competitions that happened. It included, field day with chariot races, Greek sing, and lip sync, showing some of the talents of our students. You can advance the slide, please. So Greek life at the University of Rhode Island really is about shared values, fellowship, scholarship, leadership, and community. Next. And so what I will tell you is, similar to the university, Greek life is undergoing a strategic plan looking at Greek 2030 and what that will look like. Certainly, they expect that it supports the university's strategic plan, particularly around strategic priorities 2, which is enhancing student achievement, and also priority number 3, which is fostering an inclusive culture that values people, excellence, and giving back. So our Greek Life team is working with their current students, alums, supporters, and others to develop a comprehensive strategic plan for Greek Life at the University of Rhode Island. Next, please. A little bit around fellowship. Let's talk about what those numbers look like. So you can see in the fall, we had a little over 1,900 women in sororities, chapters, 1,300 fraternities, for a total of 3,200, a little bit more than 3,200 total members. And then if you look at spring, we're at about 3,500 total members. So involvement remains strong. For those who are unaware, our students who are engaged in Greek Life pay dues. Traditionally, the first semester dues are more expensive, and then following, they pay dues per semester to their Greek organization. Next slide, please. Here's a little display of where we've come with Greek and what our numbers look like. If you look back to 2015 spring, you can see we're sitting at about 2,460, and it only goes up to this past fall, but I think I just articulated 3,500 for spring. So you can see we've had a slow, continuous growth, sometimes of downturn and sometimes of going up. But there seems to be strong engagement within the Greek community at URI. Next, please. Looking at scholarship and a little bit around the Greek Life academic report. So each semester we do look at our Greek affiliated students to see how they and their chapters are doing in regards to scholarship. And what I want to highlight there is that if you look at all of our fraternities, there's an average GPA of 2.91. All of our sororities come in about 3.29, and all Greeks come in about 3.14. So academically, our students are doing well in those affiliated with Greek Life. I also want to talk a little bit here about, you'll see the newest chapter to join, AKA down bottom. Because the chapter is so small, their information is not shared. But it really speaks to the fact that there's an aim for us to increase our diversity amongst our Greek-lettered organizations. Last year, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority, the oldest Greek-lettered organization established by African-American women, was established at URI, and our goal is to work to increase both membership and offering for Black Greek-lettered organizations on campus at the University of Rhode Island. So it's a goal that we have and we're working towards. Next, please. Moving on with scholarship, I just want to talk about the importance and the support, the generous support and ongoing endowment that we have from URI alums and supporters. Many of our Greek affiliated students have scholarship opportunities, and this has a real impact on their ability to be at the university and their success. So we are very grateful for that continued support. Next, please. Also want to share a little bit that our Greeks are in every major, every college across campus. So there's no clear trends here, except that they change routinely. But there's all majors and all colleges are represented within the Greek Life at the University of Rhode Island. Next slide, please. We're talking a little bit about leadership. So we do a lot of work around students being able to earn academic credit. And so we offer a CSV 302 for Greek affiliated students. Those are rising leaders, and we really work with them on facilitation skills, how to work with new members, concentrating on some of the things around risk management, leadership building, team building. Certainly, we bring in some partners that help us across campus, talking about substance abuse prevention, sexual assault prevention, leadership, scholarship, and the like. We have Greek 101, which is a 4-week seminar to educate our new members, and we continue some of that other work that's happening. And then HDF 416. I'll also say that we run Greek leadership summits that are well attended by our students, and again, works in partnership to make sure that they're getting what we believe to be the education and support that they need on topics that are of interest and concern. Next, please. Our Greeks are proudly recognized across the Northeast for their services and engagement. So if you look here, just a quick display of some of the awards that they've received around civic engagement, public relations, academic achievement, and the like. So we have established great partnerships across campus to ensure that these things happen. So many of our students work on local efforts for fundraising and civic engagement as well. And really service projects in our community that are instrumental to our community. Next, please. So service in 2022 and 2023 and beyond. I just want to, this group does a terrific amount of fundraising to give back to the community. And if you look at some of the work that they've done with the VFW, this year they did some work with the YMCA and Habitat for Humanity, and those that are in between. Their 5-year community fundraising totals are near $1 million, which are critically important to these community partners that they're working with, and really make a difference in the day-to-day lives of Rhode Islanders and these organizations serving them. Next, please. We're talking a little bit about brick and mortar. So we have relationships on campus, as we talked about. We reference it as Fraternity Circle, where many of our Greek-affiliated houses are located. We have 11 sororities on campus, 6 fraternities. And we've done a terrific amount of work in partnership with them on improving that area of campus. And as you heard, we're going to move forward with working on phase 2 to increase even more beautification projects and community over there. Next slide, please. So just a little bit, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk a little bit about the public health approach, right? So no bigger spotlight than COVID on this, but certainly, there's really a concern of making sure that we have environmental intervention policies, practices, and the like to ensure that our students will be successful, make good decisions, and be good members of our community. So we continue to highlight the commitment to excellence in fraternity and sorority life and focus on the health, safety, and well-being with our community. And we have staff whose job it is to work with our organizations to employ those best policies and practice. It really boils down to really good communication between the university and the organization so we can be aligned and ensuring and focused on the value of those relationships, having proactive conversations that create positive and sustainable relationships, accountability, enforcement, and transparency. So we're working really hard to make sure that we and the organizations are aligned in the policies, practices that we have at the university to ensure that our Greek students are safe, well, and being the best citizens they can of the community. Next, please. And that's it. So I know that was quick and a high-level overview, but I'm happy to take any questions on anything that I covered.
Committee members, any questions for Dr. Ellen Reynolds here? I'll just make a comment. I mean, you're busy. You've got a lot going on, and it's pretty great to see all the good work that the Greek life students are doing. And I guess the only question that I have is how do we engage more students to be involved? I mean, do we try to get them at the beginning of their college career, if you will, or how does that typically work?
It's a great question, Jay, and I will say the majority of the students do investigate becoming involved in their first semester, freshman year. But we do have some that join, as you saw, in the spring, if they're transfer students or the first semester wasn't a time where they felt they could be engaged at that point in time. And then sometimes sophomores, but traditionally I will say it's first and second semester first year students that are engaged. And then they are usually members throughout their time at the university. Again, I think you've lifelong commitment that many of these organizations bring together individuals.
Yeah, and I had no idea the AKA started at URI. That's pretty great.
That's our first one, but I'm going to tell you, we have a goal for more. We have many individuals on campus who have been members of Black Greek lettered organizations who are really willing to roll up their sleeves and help us. They may be statewide chapters, but we don't actually have them here at the University of Rhode Island, and that's really where we see a great opportunity.
Very good. Very good. Thank you very much. Any questions? All right, hearing none. Thank you so much, Ellen, for that great report. Next up, we have Thor Bjorn, Athletics Director, who will give us his presentation. Thor, the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you so much, Jay, and appreciate it. Just going to get the presentation on the screen here.
You're done. All right, good.
That's how we roll. Great. Thank you. All right. Next slide, please. All right. So really, a big part of the presentation today is to talk about some of the facility, current facility work that's being done within athletics, and then also with the president's incredible support, some work that we hope to be, and also with the the governor's initial support too, some work that we hope to have done with some of our outdoor facilities. As part of this presentation, you'll see a couple videos that we've put on, and I'll explain the rationale behind each one, but it's really to give a sense of where we are truly lacking as it relates to what I will call Division I level quality facilities. So it's been a focus for a long time. And so with that, can we go to the next slide, please? Many of you heard me talk about the Solaviv practice facility, basketball practice facility. It's the renovation of West Gym. Certainly something that we're incredibly proud of. And it's that I can say so far, I'm knocking on wood because I do not want to jinx myself, that the project is coming in on time and on budget. Populous was the design team. Tower Construction's been doing the work and really just doing a fantastic job. So this was a facility that was used primarily for club sports or recreation, I should say. There was some academic use in there as well. And then our baseball and softball teams would use the facility. It's on the west side of the Toutal pool. But rather than trying to go out and fund or build a standalone practice facility, which many of our peers, just about every one of our peers, certainly in the Atlantic 10 or the Big East has, I think we made the very practical solution of renovating some space and really making this, I can honestly say, from a practice standpoint, one of the best I've ever seen in the country. Not with the amenities of locker rooms, et cetera, but in terms of true practice, it's terrific. So would you mind playing the video? This video just shows you a sort of an update as to where we are now. Here we go. So again, that's certainly something we're incredibly proud of. That's 100% fundraised dollars, just under $8 million that was raised. The university helped us with some cash flow as it relates to getting donations in, as has the foundation. So certainly a real point of pride for us. If anybody is in the area and would like to take a walkthrough, I'd love to give you that tour. When you saw in the video, the hallway, again, a little different than maybe a pro sports mentality. That'll be what we're calling a recruiting hallway. So there'll be some incredible displays, both on men's and women's basketball. Really, really first class. So it's a project that we should all be really, really proud of. And like I said, just a tremendous thanks to our facility services folks, Shane Tallerdy, who's been the project manager since this construction started. So really spectacular. So any questions as it relates to our practice facility and the progress we're making?
I just think it looks absolutely beautiful. I mean, those are planks, individual planks, one by one on the floor. That's incredible.
I'm
Really.
so glad I didn't have to do it. I don't think I'd be walking.
Seriously.
It's fun to see. Yeah, it's really fun to see how they've been able to pull that together.
That's amazing. Good work. Congrats to all involved.
Thank you. All right, next slide, please.
Thor, is that a prerequisite for the basketball floor that they can't use sheet goods? They have to use individual items?
In terms of flooring, absolutely. Yeah,
You can't use sheet good as all, huh?
correct.
Oh,
Correct.
okay.
So the next slide, we actually have a couple different slides that we put together, and I'll give you a quick background on these. Probably about 3 years ago, we did the initial architectural engineering work of what it would cost to design and replace the east stands at Meade Stadium. We've known those are obviously very old. The press box is really in a troubling shape. And so we did put this together, and then it just so happens that 2 years ago, and then even worse last year, we found out that we're dealing with a number of different fire violations as it relates to Meade, as well as some other challenges. So our capacity, thank you to folks on this call who helped us with this. We found out in August that our capacity in these stands was going to go from 4,000, which was below the 5,000 it should have been, to 1,000 about 3 weeks before the first game, and which would have been devastating for our program. But this is something that the president had, one of the projects that the president moved forward and requested through help from the state, through RICAP funds, to renovate these stands, which would basically mean tearing down the east stands and replacing. We gave a tour with some of our student athletes of a number of facilities, and you'll see different pieces of it, both Meade Stadium, and then again, I'll get into some of the other projects in the next couple slides. But what we decided to do is kind of do the same sort of tour, but virtually, so that for those that couldn't attend the in-person tour from the State House, we wanted to be able to share what we're dealing with now and what we hope to get to. Like I said, we did invest the initial A&E dollars to find out what these stands would ultimately cost. Our facility services folks have worked on looking at escalation, because the project was designed probably 3 years ago, give or take. So with the first one, if you wouldn't mind, can we show the video? Behind me is Meade Stadium. It's a facility that's been around for over 50 years, and certainly well beyond its life expectancy. Great deal of work is needed. You'll be able to see on this tour that the press box is certainly insufficient. There is no ADA accessibility with an elevator allowing folks to get up and down to the press box during games, and then also certainly some challenges within the seating itself.
We are here at the back entrance to the Meade Stadium press box, and this is actually the only staircase that someone like myself can use to go up to the press box. As you see when we get to the top, it's the only section of the stands that has a handrail that I can use to go up and down the stand, so that's why I'm limited to this one point of entry.
You can see that we've had some branded signage here, but again, this was done to reduce the capacity of the stadium rather than just to sell additional sponsorships. We had to find a creative way to meet the requirement of the reduced capacity due to fire code issues. This press box was renovated about 10 years ago just to make it somewhat usable. Still far from ideal.
As you look around, you'll also see in several areas that it's literally being held together by duct tape.
Welcome to our coaches booth. Every press box is required to have a space for up to 6 coaches, both from a home team and a visiting team side. So you'll see that 3 of us barely fit into this one booth, in which we're required to have space for 6. Certainly not usable at all. Welcome to the Meade Stadium concession stands. Again, part of the project will be renovating the underneath portion of the stadium, including concession stands and restrooms. I'll show you the concession stands first. You can see that this certainly won't handle concession needs for 6,500 fans. It also floods when it rains and needs to be completely gutted and replaced. Here is the men's room that serves the east side of the stadium. Again, designed 50 years ago, certainly not what we need to handle the capacity and crowds that we get today. So as you can see, a lot of work required there. The new design would certainly make this, it's far more suitable for the program. Again, I can't thank the president enough and the board for the support of moving this forward to make a request of the governor and the state for the use of RICAP funds to do some work here. Next slide, please. So also other facilities that we really need to focus on, and you'll see again in a video, our Slade track, which has been condemned now for about 30 years. Also our Bill Beck baseball field, our softball complex, and our soccer complex. And why don't we just play the video, and I can certainly answer any questions after.
Welcome to Slade Track. This is the home of our outdoor track program. Actually, that's not the case. We haven't utilized this facility in close to 30 years. The track's been condemned, and I have to say, our track programs are one of the most successful programs we have here at the University of Rhode Island. So as you can see, asphalt track, this needs to be torn up and redone. We also require a throws area. Currently, our throws event is done on the other side of our softball field in a facility, in a cage, that is incredibly dangerous. It's time to step up and put together, I think, a really first-class track.
We are standing here outside of the softball press box, and we use that term loosely because, as you can see, it's actually a shed. So in this press box, you have your stats person and your scoreboard operator, your PA announcer, and your marketing person. But that's about all that we can realistically fit in here. When we're streaming a home game, there's a table that cuts off about half the room in the shed. So when we're trying to stream on ESPN Plus, the space that we already have that's limited gets cut in half because of equipment, because we have to keep it out of the weather and keep it safe. The other issue that we have, because it's a shed that doesn't have full windows, is that we actually can't see the two foul lines, so there's often plays that we have to guess at in terms of scoring, because we don't see the physical play that's happening.
So there is no restroom facilities here, there's no concession stands. So if our student athletes are practicing or they're playing in a game and our fans need a restroom, right here is where we'll set up a couple porta potties for the course of the spring semester, and that's what we have to use for restroom facilities. The dugouts are also in disrepair. As you can see, there's no shingles remaining on the dugouts. There's no restrooms in the dugouts. They're way too narrow for a Division I softball program to compete in. We have very little seating capacity, which makes, again, drawing fans even a greater challenge. Welcome to our URI soccer complex. Now, our opponents will say we have some of the best grass that they can play on anywhere, but what we don't have is a press box. We don't have any place for our media relations staff, our streamers, and when I talk about streamers, I'm talking about producing games and airing them on the ESPN Plus platform. We work out of a tent area with a concrete slab, and certainly not a good situation for us. As you can see, we don't have a great dugout situation. We do have these old canopies that we put up about 15 years ago, and they provide some relief from the rain, although do need to be worked on a little bit as well. The URI baseball team is another program that's experienced some great success with a lot of local talent. But as you'll see, very similar to our softball situation, our press box is almost dysfunctional and is also not ADA compliant. Very little stands. We do have a patio here set up that people can bring some portable chairs. But other than that, really no great way to watch our baseball team play. Another facility with no restrooms or no concession stands. We talk a lot about the greatness of the University of Rhode Island, some of the infrastructure associated with our weight room and our great coaches and the great culture that we've worked so hard to build. But our facilities are in such disrepair that it makes it very hard to try to attract the best possible students that can compete for us.
So before we go on to the next slide, certainly any questions, thoughts, anything anybody would like to ask about the video? Was it helpful to get a sense of sort of what some of our programs are dealing with?
Absolutely, absolutely. That couldn't have said it more clearly. We've been hearing about it for a long time, and I think when you see these videos, it certainly is, it's in your face. So I'm really happy that we're getting support to take care of this, because quite frankly, the students are not, I'm happy that we're winning and that we're, number one in track and field and whatnot with that facility. Where do they practice today?
They practice actually in Mackle Fieldhouse, which is a terrific indoor track, but obviously indoor and outdoor track, believe it or not, is actually two very different sports. So they try to, they do practice indoors for their outdoor season. But we're not in position to be able to, really obviously host any events here on campus, but that's for sure.
Yeah.
Hey Thor, this is Robbie here. I had the pleasure of attending a tournament that our girls softball team participated in here in the University of South Florida in Tampa. And I think the minute some of the parents of some of the players and some of the folks who were in attendance knew that I was there, one of the board of trustees, they made it clear that our complex is in desperate need of some support. So we've got a pretty good following and folks who want to see us do well, and they want us to have the facilities to show for it. So pretty important stuff here.
Thank you, Robbie.
Thor, this is Armand. What's the price tag on each one of these 4 projects?
So the estimation that we got from for Slade Track was actually done by Populous, and that was in about just, I'm going to give you the rough estimates because I don't have it right in front of me. Armin, it's about just under 11 million. The Bill Beck Field project was, and I can email the committee all this information so you have it actual. But that was going to be approximately, I think, 6 million. Softball was about 7 million, and soccer was probably about 5. I could be off there. I'm sorry, I don't have that in front of me. I will email that to you.
Actually, yeah, Thor, you're underestimating all of them.
Oh, okay.
I think the stadium was 42.
That was 42.
The track was something like 12 and a half. The baseball was 14 and a half, and the softball was about 12. The swimming pool, which you're not including here to repair, is about 6.5.
Thank you, Mark.
Sorry to interrupt, Thor.
No, thank you for the information. My apologies for not having it with me.
Okay, and to date, we've got no state aid at all on any one of these 4 projects, right?
Mark, would you like to address that, or do you want me to?
Well, the governor did recommend about 42 million, with the expectation that with that, which is the equivalent of the sports stadium, that we would be able to do the football field, which is used, by the way, for lacrosse and other sports and clubs, as well as the track, and then we would find donors to bridge it. But in total, the ask is about $83 million, and he was recommending basically half of that. So I think, yeah.
And the way that number was derived was basically 80% of the estimated cost of the east stands and the track.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, next slide, please. One of the biggest areas of focus that we're spending, and you've all heard me talk about it, we're talking about it more and more as we get into greater depth. The new name, image, and likeness opportunity as it relates to our student athletes having the chance to go out and monetize their name, image, and likeness to generate dollars for themselves. Next slide, please. So Open Doors is a company that we're going to partner with in part because of our relationship with Learfield, who's our multimedia rights company. Open Doors will provide our students with the chance to really create their own, I call it sort of a microsite. They'll each be able to go on and put together their profiles and what they can do to try to help whether it's social media promotion, whether it's autograph signing, whether it's in-person appearances, that sort of thing. There's ways for us. What we're trying to do is provide tools for our students to be able to use to go out and really, monetize their name, image, and likeness. We're allowed to do that. There is some real limitations as to what the athletic department and the university can do as it relates to name, image, and likeness. But we are able to provide some of these types of services for them. We should be unveiling this to our students in the next 2 or 3 weeks, the Open Doors platform. So we're excited to see how that goes. We've actually been 2 members of our staff have been going out and speaking to every one of our sports teams to start educating them on this opportunity. So it's certainly something that that we're excited to be able to provide for our student athletes. And I hope, whether it's in the June meeting or in the fall meeting, to maybe be able to walk you through a little bit, maybe some specific actual real examples of this when our students start taking advantage and utilizing. Next, please. The URI Launch Lab is really an on-campus initiative. It's actually housed in the library. Some amazing people that are part of this, and that what they're trying to do is, or what not they're trying to do, what those folks are doing are allowing not just student athletes, but students across campus to utilize the Launch Lab to really help students develop, again, their name, image, and likeness opportunities, whether it's creating their own businesses, whether it's creating some apparel, types of things, whether it's doing podcasts. There's mentors and some real strong guidance from folks in the Launch Lab for our students to really take advantage of. And I'll tell you, it's been fun to see them. Our Student Athlete Advisory Committee went up and had a meeting up there this semester to really get a sense of what's offered there. And I've been there, I think now 3 times to just sort of take tours and see what it's all about. But it's a great on-campus resource for our students, and a lot of our students are really taking full advantage of that. Next slide, please.
Thor, if I could, is there any collaboration between like the Small Business Development Center or whatever that group is that we've got that we to work with the Launch Lab?
That I don't know, but I can find out, Jay. I'm guessing there probably is, but I don't know. The Launch Lab is something that's really, it's not an athletic specific initiative.
Correct.
They're really working with all students across campus. It's really pretty amazing to see some of the work our students are doing. It's incredible. But the resources that they do have in place, I know some of our student athletes have been able to really take advantage of.
Very good.
The next is the Road to Excellence Collective. It's the collective, which is, again, what is a collective? It's a name, image, and likeness space or group or organization that really helps to represent and showcase, give an opportunity to some of our student athletes to go out and really manage and help negotiate some of their NIL rights, deals, and sponsorships. We do have a Road to Excellence Collective. It's in place. It's going to be really critically important. It's one of those things I have to say that Garrett and I have to spend, or will be spending, just a tremendous amount of time going out and trying to educate, inform, make requests of people to get behind and supportive of the collective. The collective is actually run by an individual. His name's Chris Showman. He runs a number of different collectives throughout the country. We do have folks that are associated with the university that are serving on the board of the collective. And again, what they're trying to do is we're trying to go out with Garrett and I's help, trying to go out and get people to contribute to the collective so that there's a pool of funds that are in place so that we can find opportunities, or the collective can find opportunities for some of our student athletes to go out and do any sort of sponsorship deal, appearance deal, that sort of thing. What's been really helpful, especially on the men's basketball side, and this is, a lot of focus here will be on, it's all sports, but it'll be focused on men's and women's basketball. A lot of the comparables now, as we look at other A10 with name, image, and likeness opportunities, what student athletes are commanding to come to different schools, either be retained by schools or go to, and you can't use a collective, or you can't use name, image, and likeness as a way to recruit a student. All you can do is explain, we do have a program in place. Here's what some of the other students have types of opportunities that they've had available to them. But you can't make a promise to any student about what they possibly could receive if they decided to come to school here at the university or any other university across the country. I assure you, we are doing this absolutely right by the book. and following every rule there. I'd like to think all of our competitors are doing the same thing, but we don't know that. But I'll tell you, 8-10 level players are getting, to put it just so you have a sense of what we're talking about, you know, some are getting in the $60,000 to $100,000 range in name, image, and likeness opportunities from collectives across 8-10 level schools. Obviously, it's a lot higher at some of the Power 5 schools and some of the Big East schools, but it's the game that we're in now, and we have to really embrace it. We have to be excited about it, because if we don't, we're going to go backwards. And so I'm incredibly grateful for the folks that are part of our Road to Excellence Collective. You know, like I said, this is probably the most important next step after the basketball practice facility is completed, or now that it's well on its way. Garrett and I have to spend a lot of our time talking about this, educating people about it. Coach Miller's doing the same thing. And Tammy Reese doing the same thing, and just saying, hey, here's what we need to do to be in the game, to be able to attract and, equally important, retain students to be part of our basketball programs here at the university. How about some questions for either one of these two things, and before I go to the next slide?
Yeah, Claude, this is Armin. I got a few questions on this. So to just explain this. So we as a university could give the student athlete an opportunity to create with this, was it Open Doors? Can create their own image. The Launch Lab will help them do that also. So can the student athlete then go out and create his own, he or she's own opportunities? Can they do that?
They absolutely can, yes.
Okay. And the second way is we have this collective where when the student athlete gets recruited, either he, she, or the parent asks, do you have anything for name, likeness, and image? We let them know we have a collective.
Yes, we will let them know we have a collective, but then we don't get into any other specifics related to that.
Okay. So when you talk about some of the other schools where student athletes already, because it's been around a few years now, are making 60 to 100,000, give us an example of how they make that and how that's paid.
Great question, Armin. Thank you for asking that. So, for example, there may be a student that's getting a $5,000 or $6,000 a month stipend from a collective, and as part of that, there is a quid pro quo that must take place. So, for example, as part of that $6,000 a month, maybe they're obligated to do 10 different social media posts promoting a restaurant, or maybe they have to go do 5 appearances at local elementary schools to be part of a reading program, or maybe they have to go. The collective has an association with a local charity, and they have to make 2 or 3 appearances there to sign autographs. You know, anything. Maybe it's a matter of doing commercial spots, promoting various things around the state. It's those types of things that they have to do. Now, all the collective actually partners with Open Doors as well, but please don't confuse the two. Keep those separate. And correct me if I'm wrong, Garrett. Open Doors serves as sort of the back of the house for the collective. So that means in order for a student to receive that compensation, they need to show proof of performance, and then the collective will cut them their checks based on proof of performance. That all then goes back into our NCAA compliance office to make sure that we can monitor it and that there is in fact services being done. Now, the hard part for some of us to comprehend is, well, what do you mean? All you have to do, a student athlete may go get $5,000 to show up at XYZ event? Yes, that's the whole point of saying one person's name, image, and likeness value is very different than another's. So that's all part of that discussion and how it's figured out.
Okay, so the follow-up question is, so if the collective goes out and you got donor A, B, C, A has a business, let's say a car dealership, B has no business but wants to give X amount of dollars toward the collective, and C has a business, a travel agent or whatever. On the quid pro quo issue, does it matter that B had no business at all, but just put the money into the pool, and it's up to the collective then to establish some relationship with the student athlete, with a business, so there's a quid pro quo that they get the money back?
You're spot on. Spot on.
Alright.
There doesn't have, when a person puts $50,000, if it's a local business or an individual, they don't have to go to the collective and say, here's a $50,000 for this. I just wanted a basketball team to get better, go find players. Or they could say, I'd like to have my business promoted this way. They could do it, either or.
Okay, so the collective becomes the agent of agent of both. The agent of the donor maybe and the agent of the student athlete.
Yeah, as Garrett just said to me, it's almost, think of it like a marketing agency for the students.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing is, students don't have to go through a collective. Now, they can have a collective deal, and they may go do their own deal with the local car dealership that doesn't put any money into a collective. That's fine too. So they get to go take those opportunities, if that's what they want to do as well. They just have to report everything back to the NCAA compliance office.
Okay, got it.
Any other questions?
This is like one of the most interesting topics ever, and I probably have a billion questions, but because you've got all these different organizations that are doing the job of, in essence, promoting, I guess, our students. I'm just trying to get wrap my head around this, but is it the collective's job to go out there and get the sponsors? Or who's out there getting the sponsors for the students?
It's a great question.
Or just acting as
Yeah.
as the intermediary. Sorry.
Do you want to take that, Garrett?
Sure, it's actually,
Talk louder.
sorry, it's actually both. They do try to generate their own revenue, the board members and the people that operate it. But the university also can solicit funds on behalf of the collective as long as we don't direct it to anyone individually.
So we could go to a donor and say, will you please contribute $50,000 to the collective? What we can't do is say, can you go please give $50,000 to the collective so that we can go get player X? All those funds will go to player X.
Ah, I see. Okay.
The reason for that is the universities already have the relationships with people who are ingrained in our community. So if we don't go ahead and shepherd that relationship, what will happen is that it'll wind up breaking apart, fraying, and the relationship won't be as whole. So you kind of have to have a university point of contact between the two to make sure that we do the right thing by the donor, the person who's affiliated with the university, and the collective. And
the student, to some regard.
And
the student. Yeah, most importantly, the student. So if I'm a donor and I want to give to the collective and I want to say, hey, I do whatever you want to do with it, but I just want to make sure that player X, because he did or she did X, Y, and Z, does not get anything from the collective. Is that something that a donor can say or do? Or
yes, the donor can direct their funds through the collective to someone. The university can't dictate it at all.
So once the player's here, they could say, someone could say correct me if I'm wrong, someone could say, if one of our current players that's on the team now can say, hey, I'd like to have, my business would like to hire, so-and-so on your women's basketball team to do 10 different appearances over the course of the year. For that, I'll pay them $5,000 per appearance. They can do that once they're here. What they can't do is say, hey, if you come to the University of Rhode Island, I'm promising you this.
Right, makes sense.
Do you have a feel yet, Thor, whether or not when they're recruiting, the schools are recruiting, some of these kids are getting collective money, or they're getting it after their first year and show what they could do?
Say that one more time, Armin. I couldn't really hear you.
When the kids, when they're coming out of high school, coming into college, do you know whether or not collectives are coming up with money on the initial recruit, or they're definitely coming up with money after the student athlete has proved how good he or she is in their respective sport?
Technically, a collective should not be involved in the recruiting process at all. That would be a violation. But what they could do is, once a kid is, and I don't know if it's when they sign their letter of intent, probably not. It's probably when they're officially enrolled in school, which would be the first summer session at the University of Rhode Island, for example. That's when maybe those opportunities could start. Kids could be part of doing name, image, or likeness in high school, so they could carry some of that forward. But as it relates to a collective, I could see that probably being more once they're enrolled, once they're here, once they've started summer classes, maybe that's when it kicks in.
Whoa, you just brought up something that I clearly didn't know. name, likeness, and image could also be applied to high school students at high schools.
Absolutely. That doesn't affect your eligibility any longer. That used to be that you would be ineligible by NCAA standards in the past. Now that's thrown off the table.
But NCAA has no control over high schools, right?
Correct. But in the past, if a kid had a professional relationship or was making money off their name, image, and likeness, technically that would make them a professional, which means they would have been ineligible. Now that has since changed.
Oh, different world out there. Yeah.
As you can see, it's,
we got, I mean, we good. The articulation on explaining it's very good. I mean, got a real better understanding about how this works now.
no, thank you. It's again, it's something that it's here to stay, and we have a really good opportunity to, I think, be good at it. We also know who we're going to be competing against and who we're not competing against, but and the rules will change. We don't know what they're going to look like in 2 years, but what we've been saying to everybody is we want to stay in the game to make sure that we're in solid position. We know what we want to do with our basketball programs, and that's get to the NCAA tournament and win games in the NCAA tournament. In order to do that, we need to have players. In order to have players these days, you need to make sure you have strong NIL partnerships or collectives in place. So that's sort of the new world that we live in. We're embracing it, and we need to get really creative and really good at it, and absolutely do it by the book and not take any chances.
Right.
Next slide, please. All right. Any more questions about name, image, and likeness before I just give you a quick? Okay. Just wanted to give some updates as in terms of our life skills programs and some of the things that our students have been doing throughout the course of the year. Next slide, please. Rody Reads. We just have our students are really getting out in the community. It's amazing. Just recently, we had 50 student athletes go to 88 different elementary schools in the area. Just again, being out there, reading to kids, making sure that they're giving back to the communities. Our student athletes love this. I have to tell you, they're great at it and they love it. Next slide, please. MSAC is a new student athlete group. And it was founded recently by Trinity Smith, a member of our track team, who's an amazing young woman. It stands for the Multicultural Student Athlete Crew, and it's really a lot of our student athletes of color that have come together and really tried to be there, be supportive of each other, create an inclusive and supportive environment. It's the first year that they have been active, and they're incredible. They're just really wonderful group, and a group of kids that we're so proud of. Excited to see what the future holds with them. Next, please. And let's see, what does that say? Oh, Rody Athletic Mentors, just another group where they're out trying to get into the communities and give back. Next, please. And then certainly speakers, what we try to do is find speakers that come and talk to both our kids, and then also what our students go out and speak to others in the community. But really trying to focus, whether it's on substance abuse, mental health challenges, leadership. We're very careful not to have more than probably 2 mandatory type programs like this a year for our students, because they're so busy with everything else they have going on. So we really try to find some impactful folks to come to campus and really talk about their experiences. And I'll tell you, it's been very impactful. We've had some speakers here that bring our students to tears, motivate, support. It's a great group. Next, please. So that's pretty much it. Love to open it up to any questions anybody may have.
Well, I'll just make a comment. I mean, like I told Alan, the same thing. I mean, this is my favorite part about this committee is that it's all about our students, and our students are pretty amazing. And just to see how they love to give back and get involved in the community, and they're all doing so well. I just think it's really, really great to hear all you've got going on. This name, image, and likeness thing is still, I think, I'm trying to learn even more so about this because I don't know how you figured it all out in the time that you did, but I'm glad that, you know, it's all above board and we're doing all the right things and we have the right advisors around us
Thank you, Jay.
with that. So, Mark, you have a question?
Thanks, Jay. Just a comment, we're meeting for the Board of Trustees meeting in the Ryan Center. And Abby just reminded me that it would be a good opportunity, maybe if time allows, so Michelle to look at it, maybe with Abby Benson, so that we could have some of the facilities tour. I mean, your video was great, Thor, but there's nothing like seeing it in person and experiencing the bouncing of the football stands and so forth, and maybe looking at the swimming pool and a few other things.
Would love that. No, that would be great. One of the things that we didn't emphasize in the video, you just made me think of it, Mark. Shane Donaldson, who's our associate AD for media relations, does have a disability, which makes it very difficult for him to go up and down stairs. That the press box, for example, doesn't have an elevator, so he can go up once. He can't go up and down more than once a game. And so yeah, I'd love to do that if time allows. We'd love to show people around, and bring a snorkel if you're coming to the pool room.
I was just going to say that. Just let us know how we have to dress for that day.
Yes, I will definitely build time into the agenda. I reached out to Abby during this meeting to let her know. So, yeah.
Very good. Very good. Any additional questions from the committee or anyone for Thor? All right. Very good. So, Ellen and Thor, thanks so much again. These are awesome reports. So the next item that we have on the agenda, not as exciting as what we just heard from Ellen and Thor, but just wanted to, we have to do an annual review of our Student Life and Athletics Committee charter. As you know, the bylaws define exactly what the job, the work of the charter, of this committee is. And we, you know, periodically take a look at it and make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, but also make changes to it to show the work that we're actually doing. We've made some, thank you very much, Jay, for putting that up. We've made some housekeeping edits to the Student Life and Athletics Committee charter, and we've identified those in the red. There you go. All right, thank you. And it looks like there were just a couple of minor changes. One of them being the oversight of student health and well-being versus welfare. So thank you for that change. And then, of course, on the university liaisons part, we made a change and we added and director of athletics versus and removed chief diversity officer. Mark, did you want to make a comment around this change or no need?
I think it's all good, Jay.
Okay. All right. Very good. So these changes, well, if you have any additional changes to it, committee, please feel free to make those soon. This will be, I think, at the June meeting for approval. Is that right, Michelle?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Again, we welcome your input. Thank you very much for that. And the next piece is item D, which is the annual review of the Student Life and Athletics calendar. As you can see, there have been suggested edits to this as well. It's a little small, so I don't know that if you guys can see the changes that we've made here, but those are in your the portal. You know, really the idea is to make sure that you guys have an idea of what we're trying to do, what we're looking to accomplish, and looks like we're right on target here for the year. If there are any questions from the committee as it relates to the changes made, let us know. But take a peek. I'm sure you've read it already, but take a peek, and if there's anything you'd like to change, feel free to share those with us, and we'll make those changes for you. But the plan is to, in essence, do the same thing, share this calendar with the board in June for final approval. Did I do that right, Michelle?
You did.
All right, very good. So thank you very much. And then the next item that we have on the agenda, I know you guys don't want to do this, but we're going to have to adjourn. So may I have a motion to adjourn?
Maybe, Jay, could I just, before you adjourn, because I was the one that asked Thor to put those additional slides at the end to just talk about, but I just want to say that Thor and colleagues like Jeff Johnson have really done. I mean, our Division I student athletes, as well as all our club sports, are doing great. But there's a lot of work that's going on with Providence City schools and so forth that a lot of people don't know about. And I just think that, you know, they're doing, on top of everything else, they're doing a great job for the community. So that's a
Yeah,
big
that,
deal.
that makes me, as a former student and also now on the board, makes me really proud to see what these kids are doing. And actually, one thing that we're talking about just before we joined this meeting was, you know, it'd be great to have the students come and talk to the committees. And being, again, this committee specifically, where it's, you know, really all about student life and the athletes, we, you know, maybe it makes sense for us to have our next meeting just focused on student life, and then maybe the next one after that just focus on athletics, because there's so much going on, and it just would be nice to see the students come in and speak to us. So, but kudos to both of you and your staff, and Mark, thank you for the support that you're providing our folks. So, thank you for that.
Jay,
Anything
can I
else?
jump in real quick too? You just made me think of something. I'm
Sure.
sorry.
Yeah.
And be both, Mark, thank you for the kind thoughts, and Jay, you as well. For our year-end report, the June meeting, our plan would be to bring, you know, 2 or 3 student athletes to do the, you know, our year-end summary, year-end sport by sport report, which I think last year we did it for the first time, and it gave the members of the board on this committee a chance to ask them specific questions and so forth. So we do have that plan to do that again in June. So I just wanted to make mention of that.
Oh, perfect. Thank you very much.
Jay, that is why, that is why we changed the calendar a little bit, because we feel like these topics need, you know, the board really wants to have students engaged, and we also need a little bit more time for each presentation. So if you look at the calendar, June is the only one meeting that we'll both present at hereafter and have students engaged in maybe a little bit longer period of time, but thereafter it will go athletics, student life, athletics, student life, so we can have a little bit more time on each topic.
Perfect. See? You already read my mind. No. All right, very good. Sadly, it is time to adjourn. So I think we heard a motion by Robbie. Armin, did you want a second?
I'll second.
All right, well, all in favor say yes.
Yes.
All right, so we are officially adjourned.